Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are focusing on a very specific slice of life in Los Angeles. It's that moment you finally sign that absolute mountain of paperwork.
Oh yeah, the hand cramps.
Right. You hand over a check that hurts your soul a little bit, and you're finally standing there in the entryway of your new home.
It's the highest high and the lowest low all at once.
Yeah.
You have the keys, you're excited, but you also have the sheer exhaustion.
And the boxes, just boxes everywhere. But looking at this stack of research we have today, from locksmith trade journals to consumer protection reports, there is a massive security blind spot that most new homeowners in LA completely ignore in that first week.
They totally do.
It's this concept of key control.
Right. Key control, it's industry speak, but it is the absolute foundation of physical security.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't matter how thick your door is or how expensive the lock hardware on it is. If you don't know exactly how many keys exist and who hold them, you don't actually have security.
You just have the illusion of security. Which brings us to the real, oh crap, realization of this deep dive. You get handed 2 keys at closing, but based on the data, you really have to ask, who else is walking around with a copy?
It's a statistical certainty that those aren't the only 2 keys.
Right.
The previous owners obviously had copies, but you have to think about their entire ecosystem. The dog walker, the house cleaner, the contractor who did the kitchen renovation back in 2019, the real estate agent.
The neighbor who watered the plants when they went to Cabo 3 years ago and just never gave the key back.
Exactly that. In a city like Los Angeles, where the service economy is just so integrated into our daily home life, a single house key can have dozens of unauthorized duplicates floating around out there.
So our mission today is to fix that breach. We are going to walk through the immediate fix for this rekeying and why it's very different from replacing your locks.
Which is a huge distinction.
It is. We also need to talk about the lid-gen locksmith scams that are just plaguing search engines right now, because that is a wild rabbit hole of its own.
Oh, it's predatory. Very predatory.
And finally, we're going to look at the smart lock upgrade. Because if you're moving, is it time to just ditch the physical key entirely?
It's a really compelling argument for a lot of people.
But before we get into the actual mechanics of all this, if you are currently staring at a pile of boxes in a new LA home and realizing you have 0 key control, you might want to write this down.
Deadly.
This deep dive is supported by West Point Locksmith. They are the vetted, licensed option in a complete sea of internet randomness. You can reach them at 310-295-4040.
Yeah, and having a verified number saved in your phone before you have an emergency is literally the best defense against those scams we'll talk about.
Right. And they handle everything from the rekeying we're about to discuss to full high-tech smart lock installs. Again, that's West Point Locksmith at 310-295-4040. So let's start with the immediate fix.
Let's do it.
I think most people assume that to secure a new house, you have to go down to the big box hardware store, buy all new handles and deadbolts, and swap every single one out.
Yeah, that's the instinct.
But the sources suggest that's actually a massive waste of money.
In most cases, yes, it is. Unless your locks are physically broken or they're just incredibly ugly and you hate them, replacing the hardware is totally unnecessary. The smarter move is rekeying.
I was looking at the diagrams in that locksmith manual we pulled, and it's surprisingly elegant. It's not about changing the lock itself. It's about changing the logic inside the lock.
That's a really great way to put it. So inside the cylinder, that's the part the key actually slides into, there are a series of what they call bottom pins.
Okay.
These are little tiny metal cylinders of varying length, and they correspond exactly to the cuts on your physical key.
The little jagged edges.
Right. When the correct key goes in, it pushes all those pins up to a very specific height called the shear line. And when they all line up perfectly at that shear line, it allows the plug to turn.
So it's basically an analog computer. If the inputs match, the program runs and the door opens.
Precisely. It's 19th century tech, but it works. When a professional locksmith rekeys your door, they disassemble that cylinder, pull out the plug, and literally dump out the old pins.
They just toss them.
Yep, effectively deleting the old password. Then they insert brand new pins that match the cuts of a brand new key.
Wow.
So the hardware on your door hasn't changed at all. It looks exactly the same. But the old key that the dog walker has is now just a useless piece of metal. It will slide in, but it absolutely will not turn.
And the cost difference here is pretty significant, right?
Huge. If you're replacing high-quality hardware for a front, back, and side door, that could easily run you $500 to $1,000 depending on the brand and finish.
Yeah, brass is not cheap.
Not at all. But rekeying. The data points show that's typically $70 to $160, plus a trip fee for them to come to your house. You are paying for the technician's skill, not the heavy brass hardware.
Which brings us directly to the skill aspect. Or, honestly, the lack thereof.
Oh boy, the dark side of the industry.
We really need to talk about the Wild West aspect of this. I went down a massive Reddit rabbit hole regarding locksmith scams in major metros, specifically Los Angeles, and the sophistication of these scams is terrifying.
It's not just a guy overcharging you.
No, it's an entire business model.
It's what the industry calls the lead gen model. The company you see promoted at the very top of your Google Maps search often isn't a local locksmith shop at all.
It's a call center.
Exactly. Sometimes located entirely overseas. They aggressively bid on keywords like LA locksmith cheap or 24-hour lockout Los Angeles. They capture your call, and then they sell that lead to a subcontractor.
And that subcontractor isn't necessarily a vetted professional.
Far from it. The profile is incredibly distinct, according to the consumer protection sources. First, the bait. They quote a lowball price on the phone, something literally impossible, like a $29 service call.
Which should immediately be the first red flag. I mean, you can't even get an Uber across LA for $29, let alone a skilled tradesperson driving a van to your house.
Right. But people are panicked when they're locked out, so they bite. Then the technician arrives.
Yeah.
And the sources specifically mention the vehicle.
This part was wild to me.
Yeah, it's almost always an unmarked sedan. Frequently a Nissan Altima for some reason.
The notorious Nissan Altima.
A scammer starter pack. They show up in street clothes, no uniform, no company ID, and here is the pivot. Here's where the scam happens.
It's the switch.
They look at your totally standard Kwikset or Schlage lock, the kind on millions of homes, and they shake their head and say, oh, this is a commercial lock, or this is high security. I can't pick this. I have to drill it.
That's the part that really gets me, the drill and bill.
It's predatory behavior. A real locksmith views drilling a lock as a failure. It is the absolute last resort. Professional locksmiths can pick almost any standard residential lock in a matter of minutes.
Because that's their job.
Exactly. But these scammers drill it immediately because drilling destroys the lock, which then forces you to buy a cheap, flimsy replacement lock from them out of the trunk of their car at a 500% markup.
So that $29 quote suddenly becomes $300, $400, or even $900.
Or more. And think about the psychology. Because they know exactly where you live and it's getting dark and you are locked out of your new house, the pressure to just pay them and make it go away is immense.
Doesn't California regulate this, though? I thought we had the Bureau of Security and Investigative Services.
We do. And California law absolutely requires locksmiths to carry a valid pocket ID card. But the enforcement is almost entirely reactionary.
Meaning they only act after someone gets scammed.
Right. They shut one shady operation down and two more pop up the next day under brand new names. The burden is really entirely on the homeowner to vet the company before they ever arrive in your driveway.
Which goes back to having a trusted name ready. If you want to avoid the Nissan Altima lottery, this is exactly where our sponsor, West Point Locksmith, comes in.
They are the exact opposite of the lead gen guys.
They are fully licensed, insured, and they actually show up in branded vehicles wearing uniforms.
And they give firm price ranges before they touch your door. That's the key. No hidden drilling fees. A real pro will pick the lock.
Right. You can reach West Point Locksmith at 310-295-4040. Honestly, you should just save it in your contacts right now as locksmith so you aren't panic searching at midnight when you lose your keys.
That is such a smart move.
Now let's pivot to the upgrade path. A lot of people moving into a new place in LA are looking at their scuffed up 1990s brass deadbolt and thinking, you know, if I have to pay a guy to rekey this anyway, maybe I should just join the 21st century.
The smart lock conversation. It is without a doubt the #1 upgrade we see for new movers.
But the tech landscape here is honestly super confusing. When I was reading the reviews, I realized it's not just about opening the door with an app anymore. We have to talk about the underlying protocols, Wi-Fi versus Bluetooth versus the newer stuff like Thread and Matter.
That is the crucial distinction to make. The early generations of smart locks were almost exclusively Wi-Fi. The pros are obvious. They connect directly to your home router. You don't need to buy a separate smart hub. But the cons? They eat batteries for breakfast. Keeping a Wi-Fi radio active is incredibly energy-intensive for 4 AA batteries.
And if your home Wi-Fi goes down, which happens all the time, does your lock just stop working?
The remote features stop working, yes. You can unlock it from your office. But the physical keypad on the door will always work. However, The whole industry is currently moving toward thread and matter.
Which are mesh protocols.
Exactly. They use a fraction of the power, and they create a much more stable, self-healing network between all your smart devices, rather than every single gadget fighting for your main router's bandwidth.
Okay, so practically speaking, if I'm buying a lock today for my new place, what should I be looking at? The review sites in our source material highlighted a few clear winners.
If you want pure, bulletproof reliability, the Schlage Encode series is the heavyweight champion.
The reviews literally called it a tank.
It is built like a tank. It's loud, it's heavy, but it works. And the Encode Plus model is particularly interesting for iPhone users because it supports Apple Home Key.
That's the NFC feature, right? Where you just tap your phone or your Apple Watch against the lock.
Exactly. You don't even have to wake your phone up or open an app. You don't have to type a code. You just bump your watch against the deadbolt, and it unlocks incredibly fast.
That sounds amazing. But what about the aesthetics? Because looking at pictures of the Schlage, it is substantial. It looks very industrial.
It's definitely chunky. If you want something cleaner and more modern, the Yale Assure Lock 2 is the big design favorite. It's much smaller on the door, very sleek.
Nice.
And it's modular. You can buy a little networking cartridge to plug into the back of it to change it from Wi-Fi to Z-Wave or Matter later on if you decide to change your smart home setup.
Oh, that's really smart. Future-proofing your front door.
Yeah. Then there's the budget contender, the Aquara U100. It's one of the few reliable options under $200 that actually includes a built-in fingerprint reader.
Biometrics on the front door. I love the idea of that, but I saw some pretty serious notes in the sources about reliability.
Specifically regarding moisture. If you're coming back from a run and your fingers are sweaty, or if it's raining, which, hey, actually happens in LA these days, fingerprint readers can be very finicky.
They just reject you.
Right, so you always want to have a backup PIN code just in case.
The logistics of smart locks during an actual move seem like the killer app, though.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the pure chaos of moving week in LA. You have the movers, the painters, the internet installation guy, the cleaners.
People are constantly in and out.
Right. And instead of handing out physical keys to all these strangers, which breaks that key control we talked about immediately, you just generate temporary access codes on your phone.
Painter code 1, active only from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Tuesday.
Exactly. And then you just delete it on Friday when they're done. You have a full digital audit trail of exactly who entered your house and when. Yeah. It entirely restores that control we talked about at the beginning of the episode.
But, and there's always a big but, when we're talking about the Los Angeles real estate, we have to talk about the physical doors themselves.
The architecture.
Yeah, because if you just bought a gorgeous Spanish Revival place in Silver Lake or a Craftsman in Pasadena, you might run into a massive hardware nightmare.
You're talking about the mortise lock.
Yes. Explain this, because I think a lot of people just buy a smart lock at Target, get home, unscrew their old lock, and realize the new one physically will not fit in the door.
It's a very common mistake. So modern doors use what we call tubular locks. It's a simple round bore hole drilled straight through the wood.
Standard stuff.
But older, high-quality homes, especially historic ones in LA, often have mortise locks. This is a large rectangular metal box that is actually embedded deep into the edge of the door itself. It integrates the door latch and the deadbolt all into one big mechanism.
They usually have those really fancy, heavy thumb latches on the outside handle.
They do. They are beautiful, and they are incredibly secure, but they are completely incompatible with standard smart locks. You cannot just screw a Schlage encode onto a mortise door. The holes will not line up.
So what's the solution if you have one of those? Are you just stuck with physical keys forever?
You basically have two options. One, you can hunt down a specialized mortise smart lock, which are very expensive and quite rare. Or two, you hire a professional to retrofit the door.
Which sounds expensive.
It is. It involves filling that giant old mortise pocket with custom-cut wood, sealing it, and completely re-drilling the door for modern tubular locks. It's actual carpentry, not just locksmithing.
And if you live in a condo or a managed community, you have another massive layer of bureaucracy to deal with.
Oh, the HOAs.
Homeowners associations.
Do not install a smart lock in a condo complex without reading your CC&Rs first. They almost always have strict door uniformity clauses.
Right. The hallway has to look identical.
If the HOA requires antique brass hardware and you install a sleek, glowing black touchscreen keypad, you will absolutely be fined and forced to remove it.
It's kind of amazing how complex a simple door can get.
It really is. It's a machine.
I want to touch on one last technical detail that came up heavily in the research. It's the concept of key-to-like versus master keying. Because for a standard homeowner, mixing these two terms up can actually severely downgrade your security.
This is a critical distinction to understand. Key-to-like is what you want.
Okay.
It simply means your front door, your back door, and your side garage door all work with the exact same physical key. It's pure convenience. You only carry one key on your ring.
Makes sense. And master keying.
Master keying is really designed for apartment buildings or commercial spaces. It means your specific key works on your door, but the landlord's master key also works on your door.
So two entirely different keys open the same lock?
Yes. And to make a lock work with two different keys, the locksmith has to go inside that cylinder we talked about and insert tiny extra pins called spacer pins.
I remember reading this in the technical manual. It basically creates more shear lines.
Exactly. Normally, there is only one perfect position where the pins line up to let the lock turn. If you add spacer pins for a master key, you are intentionally creating a second or even a third gap.
Which sounds bad.
It is bad for a homeowner.
Yeah.
Mathematically, you are making the lock significantly easier to pick or bump open because there are now multiple successful combinations that will turn the cylinder.
So for a single-family home, you should never ask a locksmith for a master key system.
Never. It introduces a physical vulnerability for zero functional gain. Just stick to key-to-like.
This is exactly the kind of nuance that you just don't get from watching a quick 5-minute YouTube tutorial.
No, you really don't. You need to understand the mechanics behind it.
So let's wrap this up with a clear checklist for the listener who is currently overwhelmed, sitting on a moving box, and realizing they need to deal with their doors.
Sure thing. Step 1. Acknowledge that you currently do not have key control. You simply don't know who has access to your home until you change those locks. Make it a priority on day 1.
Step 2. Decide on your strategy. If the existing locks are good quality, just rekey them. It's cheaper, it's faster, and it's secure. But if you want the tech features for service workers, upgrade to a smart lock. Just be sure to check your door type first.
Right. If you open your door and see a big rectangular metal plate on the edge, that's a mortise lock. Don't go to the hardware store. Call a pro.
Step 3. Avoid the scammers at all costs. If you're calling around, demand a license number over the phone. Ask for a firm price range. And if a guy in a completely unmarked Nissan Altima shows up in a t-shirt and immediately reaches for a drill, tell him to leave.
Verify, verify, verify. Do not let them touch your hardware until you agree on a price.
And of course, the easiest way to verify is to just use a trusted source from the jump. We've mentioned them throughout the deep dive, but West Point Locksmith is the partner for this discussion for a very good reason.
They really are the gold standard for LA.
They cover the entire Los Angeles area. They totally understand the weird, quirky architecture of old LA homes, including those mortise locks. And they do all the high-tech smart lock installs, too.
And they are available 24/7, which is absolutely crucial when you realize at 10 p.m. that you locked your only set of keys inside the moving truck.
Call them at 310-295-4040. Seriously, put it in your phone right now. 310-295-4040, West Point Locksmith.
It's the cheapest insurance policy you can have during a move.
I want to leave everyone with a final, kind of provocative thought today based on the research.
Let's hear it.
We spend so much time and energy obsessing over our digital security. We use two-factor authentication for everything. We pay for encrypted password managers. We freak out whenever there's a corporate data breach.
Oh yeah, we treat our personal data like it's Fort Knox.
We really do. But then we go home, we close the door, and we sleep soundly behind a physical mechanism that hasn't fundamentally changed since the 1860s. And worse, it's often protected by a cheap $10 lock from a discount bin that anyone with a bump key can open in about 30 seconds.
It is a really strange paradox when you think about it. We live completely in the future digitally, but our physical safety, the safety of our families, is often stuck right in the Victorian era.
Maybe it's time to bring the front door up to speed with the rest of our lives. Thanks for diving in with us today. Good luck with the move, LA. Get those locks changed.
Stay safe out there.